I think it's time for a weekend project. So, this is one that I mentioned, just came up with actually, when we were tearing apart these meteor lights and taking a look at them. And it was to get the solar panel. Was it when I was doing that, or was it when I was taking apart that solar light, that security light? Anyway, one of those anyway. But the idea was to get a solar panel, suitable solar panel, and a suitable phone lithium cell which has a protection built in. This one claims to be 1050 mAh. Hopefully it is. I'm not really sure. We'll find out. Well, will I find out? Well, we'll see how long it lasts. That's all we can really do. So I've got a choice of solar panels here. These are quite cheaply, easily available off eBay. And as long as we've got a 5 or 6 volts, that should do it. So this one here, I'm getting quite greedy. This one's quite big here. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and 10. It's got 10 sections, so it's going to put out about 5 volts. So let's use this one. And the circuit is going to be very simple. What we're going to do is we're going to have the solar panel, which I'll just show as a single cell, with the sunlight shining on it. And we're going to have the positive going across to, and rather than do anything fancy, I'll just say phone cell. And that's going to be the positive terminal. The negative terminal is going to be down there. And then normally I'd stick a diode in the positive, but in this case I'm going to stick it in the negative. For a good reason. It's going to be used as part of the switching circuitry, so we're going to be putting a diode there. And that diode will serve a couple of functions. The first function is that it will stop the lithium cell. I'll just write LiPo down there, discharging into the solar panel at night time, but also we can use it as a sort of switching device, so to speak, keep this simple. So we'll use a generic NPN transistor, and the emitter will come down to the negative on this and the cell side of the diode. The collector will go up to, we'll make that the light, the meteor light, so I'll just put meteor. Oh God. Meteor. That didn't go too well. And we'll put a resistor in here, and I reckon I've already looked out a 10 ohm resistor. It's an experimental value. It's just to limit the current to keep, basically, stop this transistor being overloaded. I'm not sure what current these will take. I don't think it'll be that high, but it means we can extend loads on without any risk of drawing too much current and damaging the transistor. It will also give a modest protection against short circuit. So we'll make that 10 ohms provisionally. The transistor will be driven on by a resistor going from positive down to its base, but that will also be tied hard down onto the negative coming from the solar panel. And the reason for this is that when the solar panel's charging the cell, it will effectively lower this side, the base, about 0.6 volts negative with respect to the emitter via this diode. But at night time, once that solar cell disappears, because it's pitch black and it's not generating any current, you'll then just see the resistor turning the transistor on. And that is fundamentally it. I don't know 100% the value for this one. Typically, going very provisionally, a gain of 100, looking for 100 milliamps maybe. So I'm looking for 1 milliamp, about, say, roughly 3K9, 4K7. Let's say 3,900 ohms, provisionally. I don't really know. We'll experiment with that. So let's see how we're going to do this. I'll let you take a look at this picture if you want for a moment, just to freeze frame or copy it or whatever, and then I'll just rip it off. So here's what we're going to do. This solar panel is quite handy in that it's got the positive and negative coming up to 2 pads up here, so let's draw that. So here's our solar panel. And we're going to have those 2 terminals there, positive and negative. We're going to stick the phone cell onto the solar panel, onto the back of it. So if we do it this way, That's going to be negative and that's going to be positive, and we're going to be soldering directly onto the contacts of this. Now this is a lithium cell, but it should contain the protective circuit that will protect it from overcharging over discharge, because many of these phone batteries do. Although I suppose it's not guaranteed. So going by the schematic, bring that back in, we're going to, the positive from the cell is going to go straight to the phone cell. The negative is going to go via a diode, which will be pointing that way. And I'm just going to use a generic 1N4007 just because I had it handy. It's a generic 1 amp diode. And at this point we've got the situation that when the sun shines it's going to charge this cell up, and hopefully once the cell's fully charged the protective circuit kicks in, and although the open circuit voltage of the solar panel will be about 5 volts, no more current will go in. The current limiting factor is just purely the fact that this, under super mega intense sunlight, will only be able to put out about a couple of 100 milliamps at best, I should think. So that's not going to overcharge the battery in terms of the charging current. Now we need the transistor, and the transistor, I've chosen a BC547, so let's draw how we'd be looking at this transistor. So look at the transistor like that. It's got 3 leads coming out the bottom, and if it's a BC547, there'll be collector, base and emitter. But if now, the BC547 is very popular in Europe and Britain, but I think an equivalent in America might be the 2N3904, and it's got the emitter and the collector swapped with relation to that. Yeah, that looks about right. Yep. So let's work out how that's going to go. So the transistor is going to have the connection that's going to be going down to the cell is going to be the emitter, and it's going to be attaching to here, so it's going to be the emitter connection. The base connection is going to actually connect to this side. So if the transistor is here, it's going to have one lead going down there, one lead going up there, and the other lead is going to be the collector, and it's the one that's going to the lights, and it will be the negative to for the LEDs. I should actually draw that in the schematic, shouldn't I? That this will be the negative and that will be the positive. But the resistor, of course, will have to go from the positive to the positive of the light. So I'll have a 10 ohm resistor going to LED positive. And that will be, I can't really write it in, there's not enough room at LED negative in there. But I'll just write negative next to it. Well, that's not helpful at all, but not to worry. The resistor is effectively, this resistor here is effectively just across these pads here, so I probably will just stick it right across those pads. I think that's going to be straightforward enough. And that just means there's 3 solder connections onto that pad and 2 onto that one. It shouldn't be too bad. Okay, let's make this. So I'm just going to grab, provisionally I'm going to grab a 3900 ohm resistor, and yeah, I'm just going to get one, just 1 second. Sorted. Right, let's start building this. So let's put a wee spot of solder on these battery contacts first. This is a bit precarious. These are sort of gold plated. Oh, they take solder quite well. I won't linger on them too long because there is circuitry on that little circuit board. It's not gone bang yet, that's a good sign. And let's flow some solder onto these bare copper contacts here. And initially, the first component I'm going to put on, just because it is basically self-supporting if it's soldered onto those 2 connections, is this resistor. So I'll just tin its leads and just tack it on. that means when I solder the other contacts, it doesn't matter so much. This isn't going to remove because it's got another connection soldered directly across here. Okay, now I think I'll solder the diode onto the battery pack. I think I'll put a little L shape in the end of it just to get a good large area solder connection. So the end that's going to the battery is the cell, is the end without the band. The band is pointing towards the negative. Positive flowing towards negative. So I'll put some solder in this and I'll tin it, because I've already tinned the pad of the cell. And then I shall solder it on here. Let me solder it on that way around. That's the first time I've ever soldered a component directly onto a lithium cell like that, a lithium battery. Rightio, so that is going to go, connection is going to go over to there, so I'll sit that on that, balance it precariously, and then solder it. That looks good. Now I'm going to have to stick this battery down, so I need a foam pad. Have I got foam pads here? Yes, I have got foam pads here. I think one foam pad placed roughly. Maybe I should have done this before soldering that, not to worry. Just pop that under there and sit this down. Secure. Now, technically speaking, I suppose I could actually tack the transistor that side. Maybe that would have actually been a bit clearer. Yes, I'll do that. So now I want to link from positive down to the cell itself. So I need a bit of wire. About there. Just going to strip that and slide it up the sleeve up, like that. And that is going to go onto the battery, and then I'll just crop it afterwards when I put it up onto the positive. So let's tin this. I think this is going to work. I mean, it's not guaranteed to work, but I think it probably will. It might need tweaked. Let's solder that onto the positive term of the battery. I can see why they made a squishy mess with the soldering and the... oh, actually, you know, it was the... Now I'm thinking of it. It was the... One of the things we were looking at was the solar-powered lamp that had the phone battery inside it, with the connections soldered straight on. And it looks a bit squishy in there, and mine looks a bit squishy too. It must just be a squishy thing. I think it's because the contacts are shrouded under the plastic, so when you solder them, it just spreads the plastic a little bit. So that's looking good. So this will be going up to there, so I shall crop that. At this point I have to be careful not to short things out too much, or at all even. So I'm going to get that wire positioned roughly there, flow some solder, and all I need theoretically in that connection there now is one more resistor, and that's the 10 ohm resistor. So let's solder that on right now. Brown, black, black, 10 ohms. So it's going to go on roughly there. Okay. And that's going to be going to the positive of the LEDs. Now for the transistor. And mine's a BC547, so the collector which is going, well, let's see, let's get the drawing back in. Collector base emitter, the emitter is going down to the negative, so this is going down to the negative. Oh, this is actually working out quite well. If I fan the leads out like this, then that's basically just going across the diode. Okay, this works. I'll solder probably the base first, just because it's kind of easier, just to get the middle connection done. So I'll tin that there. And I shall put that on and solder it. This is possibly just the simplest, you know, I don't think you could get a simpler dark circuit. This one, I believe, I could be wrong, I think it originates back to the Beambot guys doing the, if you don't know what Beambots are, it's worth looking up, BEAM, Biology, Electronics, Aesthetics and Mechanics, and it's super simple little solar powered robots, fantastic, great fun to build. So now I'm going to tune this lead, because this lead now is going to be the negative for the lights, and I bring in this slightly scorched lead, and I'm going to actually tack that across. Well, I'm going to actually make the positive positive this time, even though it wasn't before. So I'm just going to bring this across. I'm going to crop that lead down a bit, tin this lead. So red will be positive this time, what a treat. And blue will be negative. Not a super generous wire, but then again it's a cheap Chinese consumer product. I shouldn't say cheap Chinese, I really have to stop. Because bear in mind that a lot of good stuff comes from China as well, but it's the cheap generic. Consumer products is a better description then. So now I want to tack the positive to that resistor. And the negative, is this going to reach? Yes, I can bend that over. Yes, I did almost scorch myself with the soldering iron there. It happens from time to time. Good reflexes. It's a long time since I've given myself a really good burn with a soldering iron, but it happens as well, just from time to time. Doesn't matter how old you get, you'll always end up doing it at some point. So let's crop that, and you know what? That is the circuit complete. So technically speaking, if I plug these icicles, meteor lights, into this, with the light shining in the panel, they shouldn't light, but it depends how much current it's generating versus how much this resistor is leaking. So let's try this out. So negative, negative, positive, positive. It's not lit up, that's good, that's a good start. But if it's going to work, and I can't guarantee it's going to work, theoretically, when I turn off the light here and this stops, oh, I can actually see already, I can see it working already. So if I turn off this light, yay! That's looking pretty good. And if I turn the light on again, they've cut off and it's now charging the battery again. That's a good result. I wonder how much, you know, I wonder if that resistor is just a wee bit too... ideally, these would only come on when it was really dark, and if that's the case, I can increase this resistor. I could increase it up, probably up to about 10k. But at the moment, I would say maybe they're coming on a wee tad too early. I'm going to change that resistor. I'm going to change this one for 10k. In fact, maybe I should just, you know what, I'm going to experiment. I'm going to crop this resistor off. Interesting that it keeps running. That must just be the base. Of course, no, because the base of the transistor is now kind of floating. And I'm going to put this resistor substitution box on. Yes, I know you guys have asked where I got this before. I think they still sell them in an Australian company called J-Car, but I don't know where you can get them in the UK. It's okay. The slightest bit of light now should, hopefully, still, it's not bad. It's still coming on relatively early-ish. That may have to do with a little bit of experimentation. What if I actually go really high? Does it affect it too much? Let's see how high I can get off with this resistor. So, going down to a sensible resistance, like... Is this going to affect the intensity? There's a point that the current from the resistor will be so low that the gain of the transistor will actually start acting like a resistor. Oh, but you know what? That's way up to 100k now and it's not having any problem. I will say that, yeah, it's a very simple circuit, but it does sacrifice the light sensing. Yeah, it's maybe just not that. It's maybe going to come on a wee bit too soon at night, but it's a start. It is a start. So I'm going to tack maybe, I'll say probably a, what do you reckon, 10k across here? I want it to be enough that it gives the... Yeah, I want it to be enough that it gives the resistor, the transistor, enough base current that it's going to actually drive the thing. Yeah, I'm going to get a 10k, I think. When winter comes, dusk sets quite quickly, so it shouldn't be too bad that way. So I'm going to have to be a bit precarious in the way I put it across here. I may just actually tack it right across like that, in fact. Watch everything start popping off now. So first things first. Yeah, stuff's popping off everywhere. That's going to happen. And then I'll solder that over to there after popping that lead off deliberately. Solder that on, and then tack that onto, I'll lift this lead slightly, and tack the output resistor onto that. Oh, that lead is kind of tacked on already, but that not to worry, I'll just resolder it onto here. Sorry if this has turned out a bit more rambly. This is how it actually happens. I mean, this is what happens when I'm playing about and experimenting with stuff. Am I getting that lead close enough to solder? No, I'm not. I am now. Okay, so I'm going to give that a go anyway and see how it fares. I'm going to have to find a suitable box for this to keep it waterproof, but that's fundamentally it. When there's light, it's going to stop it chasing, and when it's dark, then they'll kick up and they'll start chasing until the battery runs flat, and then the protective circuit will kick in. Yeah, that kind of works. I have to say I'm not overly thrilled at the light sensing aspect. I think it could have done with more sort of much more sensitive threshold detector, but for having said that, you can't get simpler than the single transistor, 2 resistors, and a diode. That's about as simple as you could possibly get for a lithium power pack, solar powered outdoor light. Okay, quick updating that because I've been playing about, I've been adding strings on. With the 10 ohm resistor on a lithium cell, having said that, it's not at full voltage. At the moment, I can comfortably drive, with modest brightness, 4 sets of these. That's effectively 32 meteor strings. And of course, the fact I'm mixing colours here is probably going to be skewing that a little bit because the red and yellow will probably be pulling the voltage a wee bit lower. But that's pretty good. That's a really good result for such a simple circuit.